me die. Just yesterday.
At any point before you see it, you think, okay, here's what I'm gonna say if I don't like it.
To those who didn't like it, I totally get it, respect it. To those who loved it, I'm grateful and dubious of your taste. But having a plan, I have learned in some cases the hard way, is the most, critical thing, because otherwise...
You don't know what you're setting up.
I watched this movie twice in the theaters. The second time was to make sure that they didn't play the wrong tape the first time. I was obviously disappointed. Let's start from the literal end because I keep pointing this out and no one seems to pay attention to just how absurd and insulting it is. The very last shot of the most long-awaited and anticipated ending of the biggest saga in history of film is a literal recycled CGI shot from a random scene from the middle of the film. They didn't even bother to shoot the ending shot. Somehow this is even more insulting than the identity theft mere seconds before. They just took a random shot, edited the direction in which her robes were flowing, and inserted BB-8 next to her, and called that the end of the Skywalker saga. My favorite thing about this one is that when Lucasfilm realized that their new trilogy really needed to step up after the last two projects, somehow they went, you know who could absolutely save our next film? The guy who wrote the Martha scene in that one Snack Zider movie. He's the one. That genius, combined with Gigi's complete lack of self-respect, brought us the infamous line, somehow Hitler returned. No, wait, it's not Hitler, since a movie where Hitler gets resurrected out of the blue, so all leaders of the world have to take their fingers off of their atomic bomb buttons to hunt for triangles that will help them destabilize the secret zombie Nazi army, and suddenly none of it will matter because the second coming of Christ comes belting the words, I am Iron Man, kills the evil Hitler while Hitler goes 9, would actually be enjoyable. No, it's Palpatine. Somehow Palpatine returned. And we have this interesting piece of something instead. This is how the production of this movie went. JJ shot some completely disjointed random scenes, the actors said some lines without being even slightly directed or given context, and like 2 days before the movie was supposed to be out, all the production team got together in front of a singular computer and tried to somehow play it all out as an intentional story with an existent plot. That's what The Rise of Skywalker is. In a technical sense, this movie is somehow worse than both TFA and TLJ combined, but a lot of people will still argue with me that The Last Jedi is somehow worse. I don't think it is. The Last Jedi was just a breaking point. That's why hatred towards it feels so much more passionate. When you're in a dying relationship, The Last Jedi is like when it hits for the first time that there's no hope, and it's associated with that initial instantaneous sensation of your heart shattering into a million pieces, while The Rise of Skywalker is just a freeing sense of relief that comes with the final breakup after grieving the relationship for so long. Somehow one of them evokes more emotion than the other, even though both are born out of the same circumstance. So episode 7 is obsessed with mystery boxes, 8 is obsessed with subverting expectations, 9 is obsessed with kissing ass. Not like in a fan service way where the film takes into account the majority of fans' wishes. No, I mean in the most literal sense. Somehow, it wants to make out with every ass that hit the theater chair in December of 2019. This film is not concentrated on pleasing a majority. It wants to please every individual person's delusional fan theories, even if they're mutually exclusive. Like somehow raise both a Palpatine and a Skywalker. Kylo's still a villain, but also not a villain. Finn is not force sensitive, but also kinda is. Reylo is real, but also not at all real. Leia is not a Jedi, but she's also a Jedi. Palpatine is alive, even though he's not really alive. Snoke is Palpatine, except he isn't. I'm kind of shocked they didn't find a way to make Rey also a Kenobi somehow. Reveal some magical love affair between Palps and Obi or something. Despite this, they still somehow managed to make this woman both a Palpatine and a Skywalker, even though she is not, never was, and will never be a Skywalker. And if you somehow managed to fulfill my biggest wish and invented a memory eraser and don't remember, the Skywalker saga ends with all Skywalkers dead and a Palpatine taken over. What the fuck, Gigi? So as far as obsessions go, it makes sense why I hate The Rise of Skywalker the most. This fixation on pleasing everybody adds a level of fakeness and inauthenticity to it that awakens my fight or flight response. Welcome to the parody realm of the sequel trilogy. The plot is as simple as it is dumb. Every single character, villain or a hero, is searching for Palpatine and his zombie army, which spawned out of nowhere, and in order to do that, they all have to go an excruciatingly annoying scavenger hunt. The funniest thing is that while TLJ's motto was, okay, what do fans want? Let's do the opposite. Now the Rise of Sock's motto is, okay, what did TLJ do? Let's do the opposite. It's Star Wars, only the war is between the Star Wars movies themselves. Like, the only purpose and intention of this film is to retcon everything The Last Jedi ever did, including the latter's adamancy on dissatisfying its audience, so this time it's the complete opposite. But here's a newsflash, Gigi. If you have kissed every ass in the world, you are a toilet seat, not a filmmaker. This movie is so petty, it feels like a personal attack, which it probably is, which is the only actually entertaining thing about it. I legitimately want to know if the people who came up with the line, "The Jedi's weapon deserves more respect," actually believed this would save their movie, as if the fans are that stupid. You served us a single chicken nugget when we ordered an entire steak, and when we got pissed as an apology, you brought us an uncooked blob of meat because you were closing in 10 minutes. How stupid do you think we owed? At the height of its unintelligence, I unironically think this movie could absolutely challenge Morbius with its stupid script, and I'm not even close to kidding. I can't even find it in myself to actually quote or call out all the stupid that happens in this movie, because honestly, this movie does not take a break. It's just cringy, illogical lines.
It cannot be. The Emperor is dead.
Stacked on top of another
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith.
atrocious, nauseating lines. Stacked on top of brain-meltingly terrible lines.
I'm all the Jedi.
And this goes on for 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 53 seconds.
Ray who?
I think my other 3 videos speak for themselves. Hour and 28 minutes in, a planet gets blasted into pieces. And Poe is like, oh my god, how? Cause like, we have dedicated entire films to just building and destroying planet-destroying Death Stars before, but this time, somehow, this entire fleet of ships just appears out of nowhere, and every single ship in this new Sith fleet that just spawned out of nowhere has planet-destroying capabilities.
Does that mean every ship in the fleet
Has planet-killing weapons, of course they do.
All of them. Thank God this movie came out in 2019, because it would never be able to beat ChatGPT allegations now. Y'all remember Oppenheimer, right? All about the hustle of creating the most powerful weapon in the world and how hard it was to get it right even the first time. Imagine if a few months after the fact, Hitler just rose from the dead with the entire arsenal of atomic bombs just in his right pocket. Okay, I'll have to end this here if I don't want to end up reciting the entire film word for word in hustle of pointing out everything about it that makes me want to slash my skull with a laser sword. The movie opens with a sequence of Kylo meeting good old Palps, where he learns that basically all of his life has been a lie and a joke without a punchline, constructed and puppeteered by this piece of rotting meat. And instead of having an instantaneous angered outburst, or an existential crisis, or a killing spree, Kylo's like, this man is chill for the first time in his entire pathetic existence, the only time he actually has an excuse to act like a toddler on crack. But no, he doesn't give a single flying f this time. Kylo through and through is the king of one of the most three-dimensionally performed, one-dimensional characters of all time.
You can't go back to it now. Like I can't.
He does 2 notable things in this movie: tell Rey she's a Palpatine, and die. Oh, remember he's also the last Skywalker in the movie called The Rise of Skywalker? More like, let's throw ourselves in the dark cold ditch and what could go wrong, Skywalker. Oh no, actually I have a better one. How about, I'm about to go into the deadliest battle of my life. What is my first action? Throw the single most powerful weapon I own into the ocean, cause I don't know, I just don't vibe with the color anymore. Kylo's every action, just like every other character in this film, is completely devoid of logic. In the other two movies, his motivation is simple. He wants to be like Vader. He wants to succeed where he failed. But in episode 9, that life's mission does not cut it anymore because he not only succeeded, but you could say outperformed Vader in a way. So now his character is completely stripped from his entire driving force and is operating on autopilot set to a setting big bad baddie. But it's not episode 9's fault. It would serve his redemption so much better if his character was depicted as one going through even bigger existential and identity crisis after achieving his life's goal, instead of a cold-blooded murderer that halfway through the movie switches his favorite color because his crush likes it too. Talking about the crush, remember when I said that I enjoyed the force bond aspect of TLJ, specifically the notion that it didn't let the protagonist and the antagonist physically harm each other, forcing them to converse? JJ said fuck continuity and fuck that. Every time they're on screen, they're either smooching or killing each other. Literally. His scene with the ghost of Han Solo is the single most thought-provoking scene in the whole movie. As in, it makes me think a lot about just how much they had to pay Harrison Ford to get his grumpy ass on set that day. Jokes aside, that's pretty sweet, until he yeets that weapon into the ocean. That still pisses me off. I don't think I've ever seen a film struggle so hard at committing to making its villains villainous. I mean, even The Last Jedi, despite putting Hux in absurd slapstick, pathetic situations, still had him remain in character as a universally malevolent psycho as he was initially introduced back in TFA. But The Rise of Skywalker does not put him in an absurd circumstance. It makes him an absurd circumstance. So this little fascist terrorist here woke up on a random Saturday and decided to spy for the people on whom he previously dropped a galaxy's equivalent of multiple atomic bombs just mere months beforehand because he was jealous of a man who is currently off duty running around the galaxy simping for a girl.
I don't care if you win. I need Kylo Ren to lose.
You could say, well, The Last Jedi left them with no choice by killing off Snoke. Well, you're wrong. One of my favorite films is Death of Stalin, and what makes that film specifically and uniquely enjoyable is watching these sadistic group of people passive-aggressively shit all over themselves in trial of clinging to power once the big baddie is dead. That's one of the most fascinating and interesting character dynamics you could explore with Hux and Kylo, but no, the film decided that turning them into completely useless, absurdly idiotic wimps right before abruptly killing them off was a better solution. But I get it, they were taking up space that needed freeing up for marketing purposes. The marketing purposes being the Muhaha man and the pride flag over here. But really, what the actual frick is Palpatine doing here? I swear to God it's been 5 years and I still struggle to wrap my head around what this blob of bones is trying to achieve in this movie. Probably the only reason he even is here is to be used as a selling point for the teaser trailer. Come in, give one or two ha-has, and go crawl back into the ditch he somehow managed to fly out of, I guess. So instead of talking about him, let me read out Palpatine's entire plan, because it's actually pretty short and precise. So there goes the manual of how to become Palpatine from The Rise of Skywalker. Step 1. Cosplay as a dead person for 40 years. Meanwhile, grow a non-force sensitive clone, get them to reproduce in hopes that somehow the child of non-force sensitive people will magically turn out to be force sensitive. Simultaneously create this force sensitive monstrosity and groom a nephew of Luke Skywalker for no particular goal in mind. And then when the force sensitive offspring gets hidden away, wait around for the next dozen years, and when she shows up, wait around even more. Then one day wake up, declare to the galaxy that your rotten, stinky corpse is still around. Plant bunch of wayfinders all over the galaxy. Ways leading to your location attached to them, because this was never done before. And also, you really couldn't directly DM it to anyone, I'm guessing because your phone battery died right after sending out a galaxy-wide broadcast, I guess. That way, have Luke Skywalker's nephew find you and tell him the girl's origins and order him to kill her and promise him the galaxy, because why not? But when the girl shows up to kill you, tell her, if you kill me, my spirit will pass into you, because that's a smart thing to reveal. And when she does kill you because she's deaf, you just die. No spirit thing. Turns out Palps read the Sith zombie manual upside down. That's my canon, at least. I don't know. Ignore him, he's stupid. But the best worst thing about his death so far, besides him Thanosing away like one of the most unsatisfying farts of all time, why didn't he just stop? Like, just stop. Stop it, dude. Turn it off. Anyway, whoever tries to argue that he wouldn't be able to is either stupid or just lying to themselves. The unfortunate truth is, Gigi and Mr. Martha are really passionate about demonstrating their Olympic level deficiency in brain cells. Also, fuck you, Samuel L. Jackson, you idiot, for using a lightsaber when you needed to, you moron. Man, there's so much. Where do I start? We meet her and she's literally flying. I get the Jedi can levitate or float or whatever, but what the hell is this? And she's speaking the words, be with me, as if any of it makes sense, as if it's a well-known Star Wars motto or something. It all turns me into a singular Jennifer Lawrence me. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? She's continuously celebrated by the film itself as the greatest, most powerful old Jedi that ever existed, that can fly, heal people from deathly wounds, and she has the power and support of all the Jedis that have ever existed because she's that lovable, and the ability to destroy the most powerful person in existence. Also come back from the dead, she meanwhile also kills Chewbacca, she kills Kylo twice, killing Leia instead, I guess, abandons her friends in a psycho frenzy, and decides to destroy Anakin's lightsaber because she's like depressed or something. But it's all okay because JJ/Kathleen Kennedy/God knows who else decide they cannot let their dream girl be anything other than perfect, so Chewbacca gets resurrected, Kylo gets resurrected, and Luke catches the lightsaber. This woman is the most insufferable character I have ever had a privilege of watching on screen, and she's the one that is getting a new movie. She's narcissistic, quick-tempered, ignorant, annoying, unfriendly, overpowered, crybaby, so sadistic she makes Kylo look like a plushie. You could argue, well, it's intentional, and I agree. I do also think it's intentional. She's intentionally portrayed as for a lack of a better term, an asshole, because she's oh lord, a granddaughter of an asshole. So she's genetically tempted by her DNA to also be an asshole. I get that, but also, did her cold blood murder DNA only activate once the writers finally decide to drop a Palpatine Funko Pop in her mayo-filled mystery box? The problem here is that, as I've mentioned in my Rey video essay, there is a huge disconnect between her actions and the consequences of her actions. Even though she's acting morally worse than the literal villain of the movie, she still gets away with everything. She's still worshipped, celebrated by everybody, she's still portrayed and assessed as a hero. So instead of her coming off as a relatable flawed heroine like Anakin, this disconnect makes her come off as just a plot-armored, overpowered, spoiled brat that only serves a message of, it's whatever if you're so full of yourself you end up killing your friends because they will simply not die. The words to live by. Also, what is with this movie's obsession with trading souls and revision? It's not as cool as you think it is. Just don't kill off your characters if you don't intend for them to die. By the end of the movie, she makes an autonomous decision to adopt herself into a family of dead people and ghosts, the head of which hates her guts more than her war criminal grandfather could ever dream of. Remember when JJ promised us and Billy Lord that he wouldn't be using CGI to revive Carrie? Well, that was a lie. From the get-go, we learned that Rey is being trained by scrapped footage of Carrie Fisher from The Force Awakens.
Yes, Master.
No offense, but this does not sound, seem, or look like Leia Organa training our main character. This is a scrapped footage of Carrie Fisher from The Force Awakens duct-taped onto the videotape of The Rise of Skywalker. It seems forced, repetitive, and completely unconvincing. Rian Johnson had an opportunity of a lifetime, and an already filmed footage of Leia Organa's honorable end, which seemed quite fitting and the best chance they had at a proper goodbye, but he screwed it over with his gotcha humor, and we were blessed with Leia Poppins instead. So I empathize with the obstacle that Gigi and Martha were facing with this film, giving a logical and canonically pragmatic reason for Leia's absence in the film, and also having to come up with a reasonable and respectful way to send her off is pretty tough. But it was completely unnecessary to assassinate her character identity, her sense of integrity brought forth by her confidence and strength in who she is outside of her magical DNA. This film making it canon that Leia Organa trained as a Jedi is already annoying all by itself. The whole concept is treated as a throwaway line that only ever serves a single stupid cause: to hand Rey a second lightsaber. And they also give the most idiotic explanation of why Leia Organa stopped pursuing career as a Jedi, which is, and I quote, "She sensed the death of her son at the end of her Jedi path." So, spoiler alert, CGI Leia, the movie not only disgraces you, but also makes you out to be completely delulu and incompetent in sorcery, because he dies anyway, so all that for nothing. Outside of that CGI disaster, Leia apparently has a built-in communication system that notifies her 2 minutes in advance that her son is about to be killed, so that she can reach out to her son and logically distract him long enough for his opponent to kill him. And in case you're also dying to get your son murdered, the way it works is one has to lay down and do a magical ritual called suicide. Writing this paragraph down has fried half of my remaining brain cells. I could also use some lying down right now. My favorite thing about Finn in this film is Rey. My second favorite thing about Finn in this film is Rey. My third favorite thing about Finn in this film is Rey. I'm so sorry if this tier ranking does not satisfy you. I'm kind of going off of what I got. Let's move on to my favorite character in the film. Oh wait, you mistyped Poe Dameron. No, I did not. Somehow my favorite character in this movie is Oscar Isaac. As in a person, as in himself. And he's in this movie not as a character, but as in himself. Somehow, there's nothing more entertaining than watching Oscar completely fail to Poe anymore, and just be this entertaining, perpetually disappointed and dissociated version of himself. Somehow, it's just pure comedy. He also manages to somehow fulfill my wet dream and openly antagonize this spoiled little brat for a second there. Remember The Last Jedi, the extended edition, the novelization, the book? Unfortunately, this one has one too. And it's even more of a disconnected fanfiction than the last one was. And let me hold your head when I tell you this. Not only is Rey related to Palpatine, she's a biological, Force-sensitive daughter of Palpatine's non-Force-sensitive clone. In this stack of useless paper, it is explained that Rey's father is not the son of Palpatine. He's an altered clone of Palpatine who somehow has to not be Force sensitive because that would take the honorary title as the only possible skin-owning vessel for Palpatine to transform into or whatever away from Rey. And we can't have that being done to our bestest girl in the galaxy. So Rey's not technically a granddaughter. She's a daughter of the main villain of the entire saga. You're welcome. But The Rise of Skywalker is not only inconsistent with TLJ or its own book, it is also completely logically inconsistent with TFA as well, especially when it comes to Rey's parentage. If J.J. Abrams had an exact idea of who Rey was back in The Force Awakens, he would logistically assume that if he were to retcon Ryan's She's a Nobody take, J.J. would go back to his initial idea of her heritage that he supposedly set up back in TFA. If she was supposed to be, let's say, a Kenobi or even a Skywalker, nothing would get in the way of Abrams going back to that concept. But no, she's a Palpatine of all people. So that means if we assume that JJ ever had any idea of what was in the mystery box, The Force Awakens was setting her up as a Palpatine, which obviously it wasn't. In The Force Awakens, she gets abandoned by her parents or other figures to starve on a desert planet, basically leaving her in the hands of an abuser as a slave. But The Rise of Skywalker's like, no, her loving parents left her as a slave to starve and fend for herself at the age of 5 on a desert planet because they wanted to protect her from her evil. Jesus Christ. Weren't there any, like, literally any other places in the infinite space to hide her? Sure, Gigi, her mystery box is not full of answers. It never was. It's not even empty, it's just full of shit. Also, have I mentioned that the ending of the Skywalker saga ends with all Skywalkers tragically dying and the daughter of the main villain stealing their identity and legacy? Yes? Well, here's a reminder. Okay, I'm done with her. I'm putting her in a paper shredder. Remember when I mentioned the CGI Leia and how nonsensical and useless that whole sequence was? If you have noticed, The Rise of Skywalker does that a lot. By that, I mean introducing completely nonsensical concepts that don't particularly serve the story, lead nowhere, and are usually dropped after a half a minute of screen time. I'm talking momentary vision of Dark Rey, Jedi Leia, the mere presence of Lando, even Palpatine himself. And my personal take on this is that it's all exclusively for the shock value, but not in a Rian Johnson gotcha type of way, but in a we need to have this shot so we can put this in a trailer kind of way. Absolutely, this is the reason why the film makes 90% of the decisions it makes, right down to its nonsense, unrelated title, because they know, regardless, it's gonna be shitty, and there's nothing they can do about it to make it work. They are already the wrong people hired for the film that is already wrong by its foundation and mere existence alone. The only thing it could rely upon is correct marketing practices, and the film is only and exclusively concentrated on being a marketable product, not even a good product. As I've mentioned in the beginning, it is concentrated on pleasing everybody, and that has a reason outside of just the movie, because they are aware that its decisions' nonsensical, contradicting, impractical nature narratively will never work. However, on a completely contextless piece of magazine cover, on a still image from an article, as a TV spot clip, the intrigue of chaos will totally end up selling their product, and it did, in fact, sell their product. I remember once describing The Rise of Skywalker as more of a checklist than a movie, and it still remains as that, a list of things that need to be in the cut, that need to be checked off. The decision-making behind the movie has no artistic value, integrity, but most importantly, it has no ambition. Episodes 7 and 8 could totally be described as highly ambitious projects, even passion projects, but Episode 9 is the first Disney Star Wars film that does not buy into its own greatness. It hates itself more than you could possibly hate it. I kind of feel sorry for JJ about this one, and even for Kathleen Kennedy, by extension, because of the tight and almost impossible deadline they had to meet by order of the Mickey Mouse. But then I remembered that JJ willingly signed up for this circus, so I stopped feeling bad. He knew what he was going to deal with, and he did it anyway. No self-respecting man in the world would take on this project. So, if you don't respect yourself, dude, why should I, to be honest? And Kathy, you dumb little woman.
As Yoda would say, there's great responsibility.
For all the time I've spent shitting all over Ryan and JJ, the truth of the matter is, you're the final boss of this parade who just won't go away.
The Rise of Skywalker, it doesn't answer anything. It's provocative.
Instead, having millions of dollars spent and shoved up in your undeserving ass for allowing such garbage piece of rot to happen because you lack basic discipline and logic. While she didn't direct or write any of these movies, while she didn't do anything else either, as a president of Lucasfilm, it was her responsibility to act like a showrunner of sorts, at least hire a showrunner, put down the tracks, guide the train that Ryan and JJ would lead, pushing them in the right direction. But no, she just attached some semi-competent famous names to films that had no prior foundation and shoved the entire creative control into their shaky hands. I have no words left for Bobby. There you go, an entire video dedicated to just how disgraceful of a person he is. This is a very unconventional wrap-up of my sequel trilogy project or whatever, but it's not like these films deserve anything better than it, so fuck it. Usually critics get a lot of heat for passionately opposing these movies, especially if they make it known on the internet after years of their release. Get over it, it's just a movie. But the people who act like Hollywood made us a bad cheese sandwich and we haven't gotten over it for 10 years have such narrowed outlook on the world I could only be envious of. Do you know just how much power is in $1 billion? I know, probably better than most people. To contextualize it, my entire country was f***ed over by approximately 4 of those. These huge numbers are thrown around so much that we often fail to comprehend the meaning behind them. Hollywood spent around $1 billion and made 4 times as much by bringing something completely worthless to the world. In shorter terms, you as a person, as someone with eyes and ears and brain and tickets in your pocket, were robbed from pleasure you were promised at the expense of making those at the top 0.01 or something so much richer. It's a highly justified reason to be upset as long as it takes to see so much talent, effort, and money wasted on a project that becomes more and more meaningless by each passing day to the world and is only profitable not culturally or artistically but financially, exclusively to one of the biggest corporate empires in the world. Just and only because privileged losers in charge were too lazy to sit their asses down for a day to properly brainstorm to create something that benefits the world artistically. It not only leads to a disappointing product, but also raises ethical concerns. Profit in billions through manipulative tactics and serving audiences with tired nonsense in disguise of a well-organized, once-in-a-lifetime experience that cost you yet another $1 billion is not just disappointing, it's unethical. Maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but billions of dollars is too much of a significant amount of money to be wasting away on something that does not benefit the world in any shape or form, outside of churning out stinky video essays like mine on yearly basis. So no, it's not a cheese sandwich. The notion of referring to it as just shitty set of films y'all should get over is distracting from and downplaying the consequences of such powerful disproportionate business trade that is continued to be disguised as yet another trashy film that somehow is a box office success.